So, if you're a travel writer, particularly with not much experience, just starting out, how do you get onto those much in demand perks of the travel writing vocation, a press trip? This is me in the middle there on a press trip in April this year to a luxury hotel in London, 3 nights in the Marriott County Hall Hotel. Lots to do, loads of great food to eat, loads of tours around London. And interestingly, if you are a travel writer looking to get into these press trips, I've never been a very big press trip goer myself. And I certainly hadn't been on one for years before this one. This was the first one that I actually pitched for in many years, and I got it. So how did I do that? This video is for travel writers who want to get onto press trips and how I actually won this particular press trip. So that's me in the middle. But this was one of the tours at Borough Market in London. But let's just go through some of what was going on there. I mean, let me give you a little insight into what it was. It was an amazing hotel, to be honest, right in the middle of London. Amazing views of the Wheel, of Big Ben. Um, Really nice hotel. Obviously these press trips are designed to sell the place to you. So we saw the very nice, shiny, polished side of everything. But in these hotels, things are never going to be bad anyway. The first evening we had a little cocktail reception. This is the head of food and beverage, who's very knowledgeable about drinks and showing us one of his favorite gins. I think that was one of the drinks there as well. Um, and the press trip, I mean, this was actually the night before everything started. But you can see this is how the press trip carried on. I think this was the start of one of the very first tours with a blue badge guide, one of these very official kind of tour guides that takes you around the place. I don't think my internet is fast enough while I'm running recording to do it, but we toured the South Bank, we toured the kind of graffiti skate parks. This was really interesting. I didn't even know you could, I'm a Brit and I didn't even know you could do this. You could actually go back down onto the banks of the River Thames and find 17th century oyster shells. It used to be snacks back then, as well as pipes and clay pots from, 400 years ago. Really interesting. We toured the Tate Modern Museum, loads of modern art. We went to St. Paul's Cathedral. This was Borough Market, a huge sprawling food market with another tour guide who was super knowledgeable and seemed to know every kind of food vendor in the place. So we got kind of personal tastings of amazing cheeses and dumplings and sticky fried rice and all sorts of things going on in there. Really cool day out. I love this. Some holy fuck hot sauce. That's worth a story almost in its own right. Um, we had a play in where this theater where the hotel was situated. There was actually a theater in there, and they were showing an Agatha Christie play one night. We toured a graffiti tunnel, London's biggest legal graffiti wall. Um, and this guy who was actually talking to us about it is actually one of the restaurant managers in the hotel. That's his day job. And then at night he comes down and sprays graffiti all over this tunnel wall. We got to have a go ourselves as well. This is one of the team um, painting on the wall there. Then finally high tea, loads of scones and cool teas and coffees, more tours around Westminster. Um, and then finally, back on one of the final evenings, we had a lovely deluxe dinner with the GM of the hotel and the food and beverage guy. Um, I hope this opens because I do want to show you, press trips are pretty crazy busy. If I just wait for this video to load, you'll see it was 3 days, but it was jam packed. There was barely a moment where we could go and chill in the room for like more than about half an hour. We were doing things all the time, every day. So you come away from these things feeling fairly tired, like you haven't been able to sit still. I think that was mostly because this was a city break press trip, and there's always loads to do in the cities, obviously, and they're keen to show you that side of things rather than just a hotel tour. Um, but as you can see, a really cool press trip. But how did I win it? So this was for Matador. Um, And if you go onto their Matador creators, you can sign up to their newsletters, and at least kind of once or twice a month, they'll send out these. This one came in just a few days ago. They'll send out these creator opportunities where they put into their emails kind of like calls for pitches, but they're kind of calls for creators that might be available for a press trip in the area with the experience they need. And then, like, here's one for a Florida Keys resort. This one is any kind of video content for holiday experiences. This might be because they've got a sponsored series coming up on holiday stuff. There's one here for adventures in Scandinavia, Germany, Italy, and India. So it's worth getting onto these Matador emails because there might be something that comes up that's relevant to you. And one came up a while ago that was relevant to me, which was this one, luxury hotel in London. So they kind of describe what it's about, the dates that you need to be available. They're looking for a writer who can deliver a Matador network article focused on the hotel property, only open to EU creators and US creators on the East Coast. Now, obviously, technically, officially, now the UK is not in the EU, but I think that's just probably a mistake on the part of the person who wrote this pitch call. On this press trip, they covered your flights. If you're in the US to get here, they cover your hotel stay, of course, all your meals and all your activities. They don't cover personal stuff, but generally, basically everything you need to do while you're on a press trip is covered. You don't need to spend your own money, essentially. I did have a plus one. My wife joined us for one of the nights. She wasn't included in the activities, but that was fine. She just wanted a day out or a night out in London. And then they give you the things you need to do to apply, where you're based, share a short pitch on why you're a fit, send a link to your writing portfolio, and propose 2 to 3 article titles. I'll show you the exact pitch I sent in just a second. Also note there's no monetary compensation for this press trip or its deliverables. So this is a contentious issue. A lot of people say you shouldn't be writing and working for free. I am in a position now where the money on this sort of thing is not really big. Like I say, I don't do a lot of press trips. I kind of just wanted it to go and stay in a nice hotel for a few nights, see some things in London that I might not have seen before. Plus, there would have been nothing to have stopped me pitching this or finding some other story ideas based on this trip and pitching them elsewhere and potentially getting paid by other outlets. But this particular one, that the piece that I was going to write for Matador based on this trip would not be paid. So that's just worth bearing in mind. So, what did I actually pitch? Let me get my email thread where everything happened. I think it's this one. My internet is being a little bit slow. Apologies for that. But if I go all the way down, so on those things it asks for, here it is. So I lost my pitch. I didn't save it because on the form that you have to write your pitch into, I think I didn't check or I forgot to check, or there wasn't an option to check to send myself a copy. So I asked the actual editor to send me my pitch. When they assigned it to me, I knew exactly what I'd actually said. So this was it. This is the whole pitch. Just what, 100 words or so. I'm a travel writer and editor, formerly senior producer for CNN Travel of 20 plus years, based in the southern UK, just 1.5 hours from London. I mentioned this and I thought it was worth pitching for this because obviously if they're paying for flights from people in the US, that's a bit pricey. I thought maybe being close to the hotel, just a 1.5 hour train ride away, might actually be kind of a bit of a perk for them in the sense that they don't have to pay for my flights and it's going to be cheaper. I've been covering destinations, experiences, and travel news for many years and have written for many top travel titles, including Travel and Leisure, CNN Travel, Travel Weekly, The Independent, The Daily Mail, South China Morning Post, and others. Here's my portfolio. And I link to my portfolio, which is a pretty simple web page, but it does highlight my experience and the fact that I've been doing this for a long time. I've got all my clients, various clients that I've written for here, some projects. and then lots of writing samples, not all of which are travel, but most of which probably would fall into the travel and lifestyle category. Um, and then here are some proposed, here's my portfolio. I would love to cover this story. Here are some proposed story titles. Number one, Don't Forget Your Camera, 9 unforgettable scenes from the London Marriott County Hall. Number two, 48 hours on London's South Bank, 10 things you absolutely shouldn't miss. And number three, is this the perfect London hotel staycation? So I don't think they were asking for headlines here because they were looking to assign something based on your headline. If you actually look at the story that was published at the end of this, Big Ben street art and historical drama. This luxury London hotel is all about its city. Totally different to the ones that I originally proposed. And that was because when I originally proposed these headlines, I didn't realize, and what came later was a very prescriptive structure for the article. They sent me kind of an A4 page of all the things the piece needed to include, and in almost in the order that they needed to be included. So it is actually quite difficult if I was going to stick to that brief to be more creative. But that was fine with me. Like I say, I just wanted to bash this thing out. I wasn't getting paid for it, so it was I was happy to do what they wanted and just get it done. But I think they wanted these titles just to see if you had a sense of the kinds of travel story ideas, the kinds of headlines at least, and the angles that would do well. I think this pitch succeeded mostly because not of these headlines that I came up with, but mostly because they can see I was super experienced, and probably also because I was in the UK and was going to be a much cheaper press trip attendant than flying another one over from the States. Um, so I sent that off, and then actually I've got to go down. I think it was a couple of weeks later. It took a couple of weeks, but I got an email from um, this girl called Tolu. We have selected you as the top choice for this trip. That just links to the call for pictures that I showed you earlier. They confirmed that I'm still available to go. These are the dates. And please let me know if you're still interested. I wrote back simply, that's great. Yes, I'm available. She then wrote back again, and just through all this thread, it was just ironing out some details. I had a contract to sign. She put me in touch with the press trip officer who is going to be kind of leading the trip on the ground with the hotel, and everything then was just kind of arranged with her until after the trip, when they then sent me another email asking for all the stuff. Here was this one. I hope you had a great time in London. Seeing Alex and Nick from their editorial team and asking for my for me to file story and the photos within 14 days, which I did. And then within about a week of filing, it was up. Um, so and the story that was published was very similar to the story that I filed. There are very few edits at all. They just kind of added um few kind of hyperlinks to the hotel. These were all my pictures, which I was quite pleased with actually. They didn't use any of the press agency photos, they used mine. Again, they just kind of added some subheads and some links to some of the restaurants and stuff that I had mentioned. And this was not the best piece I've ever written, not the most interesting, but it just like I say, this was my payment in essence for 3 days of a nice little hotel trip in London, and that was basically it. So I think the key takeaways for me were be aware of what press trips are on offer. Like I say, Matador sends these things out at least once a month, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a month, with these kind of creator opportunity offers. And if you're in the right place with the right skills and perhaps the right experience, you stand a good chance, I would say. Um, Keep your pitch very simple, just like mine was. Very brief introduction as to who I was. Let's just go back to it. Uh, who I was. Like I say, my experience was a big plus for me here. I think the fact that I've got CNN Travel, Travel and Leisure, Travel Weekly in my bylines was all important. I've got a good portfolio showing I'm pretty experienced. And then my headlines were just kind of the icing on the cake, I think, to show that yes, I knew how to construct a story idea that was clickable and would get traffic and be, kind of attention grabbing. But that was it, not complicated. And it resulted in, yeah, cool little trip to London. So I hope that helps.